It's exciting. We've got a live show of remodelers on the rise. Over the last month, it's been a tad bit hectic around these parts. And we had a live event last week, batting practice for remodelers. That is in the rear view mirror. And we're recommitting to getting some consistency back with doing the live shows. Ideally, we do them Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is streamed on the Remodelers Community Facebook page, remodelerscommunity.com. It's streamed on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook pages. So welcome. I already see a few people rolling in. Click a little like button, maybe leave a little comment. I sure would appreciate it. I'm getting a phone call back that I've been waiting for, but we're live here, so I can't take that. We're buying and selling a house this week and closing on Friday. And it's not hard. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. We're nearing the finish line, folks. Last week, this event, batting practice for remodelers, had about 25 people come in from some flew in, some drove in, and it was fun. I'll unpack it and tell you more about it another time, but suffice it to say, everybody got value. I enjoyed it, and it was great. We'll be doing more events in 2022. Today, what we're going to talk about is your sales pipeline and follow-up. Bailey and I had a Blitz meeting yesterday. The Blitz meeting is I forward things over to her, and a couple times a week, we go through them kind of all at once. It saves us time. It allows me to process and clean up my inbox or ideas that are popping in my head, and it makes us much more productive and efficient. And one of the things that we brought up yesterday was, all right, it's time to get serious again on the Remodelers on the Rise show. What's some value? What are some topics that we can dig into that would be helpful to the people? And the first one that came up in my mind is something that I've talked about plenty over the years, but I haven't talked about it in a while. It's come up on a couple coaching calls here recently, and it's related to your sales pipeline and how you follow up with prospects. Okay, so number one, let me ask this question. I just need to tweak this real quick. Oh, there it goes. Here's a question for you. How well are you tracking your prospects and your lead sources and your follow-up activities? 1 equals bad, 10 equals amazing. If you type that in the old comments, I'd love to get a few people to comment on that. How well are you tracking your prospects, your lead sources, and your follow-up activities? 1 equals bad, 10 equals amazing. I'd love to have your feedback on that. When I ask this question to remodelers, a lot of times I'll get something like 5. It's kind of organized, kind of not. I might hear occasionally an 8 or a 9. They have this really organized. As a business coach that does a lot of sales training, here's a punchline that I want you to hear. Get your sales pipeline organized. Keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate it, but also don't rely on just a big stack of folders. A lot of you may have a spreadsheet or a CRM system or something you use to manage your sales pipeline. Make it a priority to keep it up to date. Like any system in your business, junk in, junk out. If you're not taking and maintaining your sales pipeline consistently, it's going to be a mess. So make sure you're staying on top of it. Okay, there's one pipeline or one little headline that I wanted to share with you. The next question I have is, what program are you using to man? Oh, we had a response. Anthony Boyd coming in from LinkedIn says 8. Says 8. Oh, we got some LinkedIn people today. Interesting. Nancy says 6. Okay. Now, I know both of them, they both have a CRM system. They use a program called Entreport, formerly called SendPepper, and they're using that. Anthony also has, I think, CoConstruct that he uses. So what program are you using? Perhaps you're using CoConstruct or BuilderTrend to manage your sales pipeline. Both of those programs are getting better over the last year or two in how they manage their sales pipeline. There's still some limitations. There's not a lot of automation. There's not a lot of, I can click a button and out goes an appointment confirmation email or out goes that. It's a little more manual there. A lot of you may use a whole variety of different topics or different programs. Oh, Jim's coming in Facebook 7. Good. So we've got some people that have their sales pipeline mostly organized. So related to what program you're using, it could be Co-Construct, it could be Builder Trend, a couple other ones. Could be just a whiteboard that you have in your office. Could be an Excel spreadsheet. Could be a program like Pipedrive is a pretty popular CRM system. Could be something like Job Nimbus. Could be Market Sharp. So there's a lot of different programs that are out there, and each one of them defaults to certain settings when you have it set up, when you go to set it up. So another thought I have for you here, and I'll hit some chimes as we go. Okay, so there's a little bit of where we're going, and I wanted to hear how you're doing right now. That chime designated, let's talk about how to kind of set it up, how to set up the categories for your sales pipeline. All right, I'm going to click this button, and then I'm going to click this. And we should be seeing, we'll even make it a little bit bigger. So this is a list of categories / buckets that I recommend your sales pipeline organize through. When you set up Builder Trend or Co-Construct, a lot of times the default is lead and prospect and client and things that are kind of generic. You don't really know what means what. And a lot of times, most of your sales pipeline just gets lumped together. So what I've found as I've coached remodelers over the years related to how to organize their sales pipeline are the following categories. You'll notice as you see them on the screen if you're watching live or if you're listening to this via podcast, that I have numbers next to each. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so category 0 is appointment to be set. There are people that have reached out to you. They're a lead. They're in your sales pipeline, but you haven't booked an appointment with them yet. They are an appointment to be set. This could mean that you got the lead, you enter them into your CRM system, you enter them into your spreadsheet, and you mark them appointment to be set. So that's a 0, 1 there. We got a little notice that says we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. We'll see if that continues or not. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you want to just leave a comment and say, well, I'm seeing it fine, that would reassure me. Next to number 1, appointment scheduled or working on proposal. So these are people you have an appointment set up for, or I say working on proposal, it could be working on a ballpark estimate, or it could mean delivered ballpark estimate. There's people in that category. Number 2, design retainer signed. You could name it design and project development agreement signed, however you want to label it. But there's people, if you're charging for design and project development, that are in that category. They're in that bucket of the sales pipeline. Every single one of your leads is in one of these buckets. So again, 0, appointment to be set. 1, appointment scheduled or working on proposal. 2, design and project development retainer signed. Number 3, done proposal for, haven't signed. That's an interesting bucket, right? There's people that you've done everything that you need to do. You've delivered everything you need to do, and you're waiting for an answer from them. Done proposal for, haven't signed. Number 4 are jobs in progress. These are people that have signed with you, but the project is not completed. They're the ones that make up your backlog of work. Think about that for your business. There's probably 8 people in there. There might be 10 people in there. They've signed with you, but the job is not completed. They're in section 4, bucket 4 of your sales pipeline. And then number 5 is completed jobs. These are jobs that are done. A lot of times it's just easy to click there and see all the projects you completed for that year. So again, these are your sales pipeline categories or buckets, if you will. 0, appointment to be set. 1, appointment scheduled or working on proposal. 2, design or project development retainer signed. 3, done proposal for, haven't signed. 4, jobs in progress. 5, completed jobs. This is simple. This is clear. Everybody that is in your sales pipeline neatly fits into one of these categories. Feel free to tweak them. Feel free to streamline them, but please don't add another 6 to it, or else it's just going to get cumbersome, and a cumbersome, overly detailed sales pipeline is harder to use and harder to keep up to date and less valuable. There's 2 other buckets, 2 other categories that I like to recommend. One is lost jobs. So these are people that when they've said, no, we're not interested, we went with somebody else, you can click and add them into the lost job category. And then the other one is not now. These are people that you don't want to keep them in your active sales pipeline You've kind of gotten to the point where, okay, or they said, we're still interested in it, but not until, 6 to 12 months from now. They don't need to be in your active sales pipeline, but we don't totally want to lose track of them. So I like to add those people into a not now category. A lot of times, if you just pop into that not now category every couple months, review who's in there, there may be some follow-up that you want to do related to that. Okay, so today's topic is organizing your sales pipeline. How do we follow up effectively? And this has been something that's been very helpful to remodelers to go from not having numbers and a logical procession for their sales pipeline, or not knowing really how to describe them, to when you get this done and organized, everybody fits nicely into one of these categories. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? I sure do hope it was helpful. Anthony said, I started on Facebook and switched to LinkedIn because it wasn't working. Oh my. Technology. But Heather's watching, Mike's watching, Mike, Bailey, Jim, thank you for clicking those like buttons. Facebook was down yesterday. Oh, Nelly. Good thing we weren't doing the show yesterday, because we literally wouldn't be able to do it. All right, cool. So that is the sales pipeline categories. I wanted to share that. A couple other items related to the sales pipeline. If you're using a various number, I should define that, stands for Customer Relationship Management, CRM system. Whatever program you're using, or if you're using Buildertrend or Co-Construct, a lot of times you'll see additional things like confidence level. It'll want you to go for every single prospect and type in, well, how confident are you in this? Is this a 72% confidence level that you're going to get this job? Is it a 42%? Is it an 89%? And while that can be interesting, I have found my advice for that is don't use it. It's not too helpful. It's another step that you have to update. It's another thing for you to manage. So don't use it. Keep your sales pipeline as simple and clean as possible. The reason being is you only have so much time to review your sales pipeline, to figure out what you want to do related to follow-up. So the simpler you keep it, the less maintenance and the less upkeep it takes. And the second thing is, the simpler it is, the more time you actually have to follow up, which is the point of having a clear sales pipeline, so that you're organized and it's easy for you to follow up. Because when you follow up in a timely manner, your closing rate goes up. You feel more organized. You're reducing cycle time, the amount of time from when somebody first reaches out to you till a signed contract, or from the time they sign the design agreement to the time the contract is signed. Cycle time. It helps tremendously. And when your sales pipeline is disorganized, or you've got a lot of things to update, what ends up happening is that precious 20 minutes you had to maintain your sales pipeline and follow up, you spend most of that time just updating things instead of actually following up. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't worry about using that confidence level. There's a couple other little features that are built into Buildertrend or Co-Construct and other CRM systems. If it's not adding simplicity to your sales pipeline, just don't use it. Keep it really simple. Ching. Okay. I got to say, I'm kind of distracted because remember when I started this, I said I got a phone call through. That was the phone call I was really waiting for. And that man is going to say, we are solid and good to close on Friday, or he was going to deliver me bad news. And I've got work. I've got people coming over to move on Saturday and Sunday. We've got this whole plan. Yours truly has got this project managed beautifully. And I'm really itching to know if he has good news or not. I'm kind of distracted. Okay, we'll see. You know how Macs or Apples have the text thing? I just wanted to look real closely, but it's a long voicemail. A long voicemail, does that mean it's bad news? Or does a long voicemail mean it's good news? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Jim said, where does lead qualification come into play? Where does lead qualification come into play? Hold that thought. We'll come back to that. That's a good question. Keep your questions coming. A couple other things that I wanted to mention related to the sales pipeline. Make sure that you are tracking your lead source. A lot of times with a CRM system, with Buildertrend, with Co-Construct, there will be a category or a drop down that shows how did they find out about us? How did they hear about us? Lead source. You want to make sure that you're thoughtful with the different categories you pick there. A lot of times about 10 or so is a pretty good sweet spot. One that usually gets overlooked is when you have one that says referral, make sure you break it out to say referral homeowner. So those are referrals for most likely your previous clients. And then referral strategic partner. Those are people that, you know, might be tile company, architect, a designer, etc., who might be moving that in. Somebody just said moving is the worst. You know, I've been having a good attitude about it. You know, it's a lot of work. We've been boxing up a lot of things. You know, I'm going up and picking up a refrigerator tonight because, of course, when you're trying to sell your house, everything breaks. But like here's where I'll take that. Like most things in life, like most things in business, the attitude that you bring to the situation almost matters more than the actual situation. And I'm trying to keep that front of mind. That's a good thing to think about for all of us. The attitude that you bring to a crummy situation, a difficult situation, is half the battle. And moving is the worst. I would agree with that. But I could also spin that to say, what a blessing and what a wonderful thing that we get to move. And this is going to be so exciting. And it's going to be so fun. It is a lot of work, though. Moving is definitely a lot of work. But check our I've got it this week, as maybe I'm a little more amped up and anxious than usual. Okay, good. So make sure you're tracking your lead source. Every lead that you have come in, when you add them into the sales pipeline, make sure you select this is how they found us and be able to report on that. Sometimes it's super clean where they just straight up found you, Google search, website. Sometimes there's multiple ways they're finding you. Make sure you have a if other or referral, please specify category and be able to type in some more details on that. I want you at the end of the year to say, hey, it's not perfect data, but here's the 150 leads we generated. Here's where those leads came from. And a lot of times, depending on what program you're using in a Builder Trend or a Co-Construct, you should be able to see how many of those leads closed and how much revenue you generated from those leads. Now we've got some really good data. As we decide where to invest our precious marketing dollars, as we decide if we're going to double down and continue to do this marketing approach or maybe trying something else. What gets measured gets improved. We need to measure where our leads are coming from. Okay, so far what we've covered is related to the, want to hit the chime again, is related to why it's important to set up your sales pipeline, some best practices on the categories that you need to have there, some other little tidbits and hard-earned advice and feedback. Okay, I'm going to answer Jim's question. Where does lead qualification come into play? I suppose, Jim, that as you qualify a lead out, especially when it's in one of these earlier categories, appointment to be set, you know, if you have that conversation and it's not a good fit because of their budget, because of the type of project, because of the location of the project, because it's not a good personality fit, they may make it into appointment to be set and never make it past that. They might fall into lost jobs. You could add a category that says not a fit. But again, I like to just kind of add that into lost jobs, keep it simple. I don't need like 6 or 7 different categories to offset that. Maybe they're in number 1 and you give them a ballpark range and a ballpark estimate and they decide not to move forward. You know that, and you qualify them out that way. So that's kind of how I would answer that, Jim, as far as where lead qualification comes into play. Kind of comes in throughout the process until they get into the jobs in progress and they sign the contract with you. Okay, cool. The other thing that I wanted to share, and you see it right on the screen, your sales pipeline and follow-up. I wanted to share a little bit related to follow-up. So I'm going to click this button, and I'm going to click this button. And then I'm going to click this button. And what we have here are a few different follow-up communications. Okay. So before I show you the details of that, when should we follow up? How long should we follow up for? Is it important to follow up? Man, if I followed up twice and they haven't responded back to me, obviously they're not interested and I should just stop following up. Would you be interested in my take on this? I might have a little bit more, maybe a little different take on it. So I saw somebody, and I got a comment. Okay, we'll circle back to that. It's a good question. Related to follow-up, there's somebody that posted on the Remodelers Community Facebook page, remodelerscommunity.com. If you're not part of that, please join. It's great. Good conversation going on in there. And he kind of boasted. And he said, I just closed a lead that opened up 428 days ago. And I was like, sweet, bravo, that's awesome. Some other people were like, you follow up that long? That's crazy. Okay. So when it comes to follow-up, always be setting kind of that next reminder of when you should follow up. So when they say, well, we need to kind of think it over, or thank you for that ballpark range, we'll let you know. Go ahead and say, would it be okay if I reached out to you next week, or would that be too soon? No, next week would be fine. Or they might say, well, we might be thinking about it. Do you want me to reach out to you in like a month? Yeah, that would be great. Always kind of get a feel for when it would be appropriate to follow up. Set that reminder. Ideally, you have a system that has the ability to set a task reminder so that you're reminded of it, to make sure you do it. And then when that time comes, reach out. How do you reach out? You can do it via phone. That's a good way. You can do it via text. Don't be shy about that. You can do it via email. That works great. Okay. And what you should be doing as you follow up is follow up in a variety of ways, whether it be text, whether it be phone, whether it be email. Be agnostic about that. Be open to any and all different ways of following up. Another thing related to follow up using the words follow up. Well, how would I do that? What would be something of value? Ooh, they talked a lot about the importance of job site cleanliness to them. Do you have any content related to that you could share with them? Ooh, they talked about this really cool new set of cabinets that we talked about a little bit, and how they wanted these cabinets to go up to the ceiling and this look. Well, you just happen to have a photo that would be great to share with them and say, hey, reflecting back on that conversation we had, here's a project that we did earlier in the year that I think is very similar to the look and feel you're going for. Share pieces of value. Remind them of your process and where they're at. There's a lot of ways to follow up with just relevant things related to conversations you've had with them, or what you know about them, or what you know about their project. So that's another tip related to follow-up. Really practically speaking, here's a really effective email or text that you can send to find out what's going on with a lead who has gone quiet. So if you have a lead, you follow up a couple times, they haven't been reaching back out to you, try this one on for size. You can literally just say, let me know your thoughts on your remodeling project. Here are 4 choices. 1, not now. Okay, this is, again, related to the remodeling project. 2, maybe, but we're still discussing it. 3, I have some more questions. Let's talk. Or 4, related to the remodeling project, let's do it. And then write thanks. This email gets a tremendous number of replies. It is very quick. It is very easy for them to reply to. And sometimes you get ones that you don't really like number 1, not now, or number 2, maybe we're still discussing it. Other times you send this out and they reply back 3, and bam, you're back in. We're going to set up a conversation and talk. Sometimes you send this out and you're surprised and they send a 4 that says, let's do it. Okay, so this is an example of a follow-up email. Another one that you can consider is similar in that it is a 10-word email. In the email subject, you could say, are you still looking to remodel your home in Brighton? And then you simply say, let me know. This is a good one to send out when the lead kind of feels dead, when you've tried a lot of different things, there's nothing going on. You can kind of try the one I just showed you, plus you can try this one. Both of these are pretty solid. I have some other ones as well. Let me pull up another example of one. Maybe this one. This one says, here's a quick note I just had to share with you. This could be an email. This could be something even you can print out and mail it to them. I wanted to check in with you and see if when we might be able to get your project on our schedule. Give me a quick call or shoot me an email. Let me know where you guys are at with your decision, or if you have any questions or updates for me. This one is, if you have any questions, just give us a ring. It's got a little message to it. If you sent an email, by the way, to Bailey, Bailey, at remodelyourmarketing.com, and say, hey, can you send me those follow-up emails that Kyle showed on that Remodelers on the Rise podcast? She'll reply right back and send them to you. And that's just straight up value add, people, because that's why we do this show. is to bring you value, is to get you thinking, maybe give you some clarity on topics that are helpful to your remodeling business and maybe even your life. Okay, here's a question somebody had, and keep some questions coming as we wrap up here soon. Should I be keeping track of or doing something with website requests that never respond to my call or phone calls I return, and never hear back from? So one thing to think about here is I'd be curious, how many calls or email replies do you make before you give up? Is it just one? I'd say you should at least do 2. 90% of the numbers that you're receiving are cell phone numbers. If you want to get a response from me, a quicker and better way to get a response from me is to actually text me instead of call me. I just respond back more, and I think a lot of people are like that. So if you call and you're getting ready the next day maybe to make another follow-up because they reached out to you, they're inquiring about a project, maybe you shoot them a quick text and say, hey, Kyle here with Kyle's Remodeling. I called and left a message yesterday. Just wanted to set up a time for us to chat about your project. Let me know. So one thought to this is, don't be shy about calling a few different times. And I understand we're not super hungry right now. I understand that we've got a lot of leads coming in, so we might not be as hungry with following up. But make sure you do at least make that second outreach. Now, if you've never heard from them, they never responded back, certainly that means they're not a qualified lead. Some people will have a category in their lead tracking that says unqualified lead. So for example, if it was through the website, like you're mentioning there, you could have 100 total leads, 30 unqualified, 70 qualified, and kind of break that out. Now that complicates it a little bit. Okay, so you can choose to track that if you'd like, because that might be interesting information. One other thing is, if you have their email address, I feel very comfortable adding them to your overall company email address. So if you use Remodelers Autopilot, ooh, it's time for a plug. Do you see that at the bottom? Try out Remodelers Autopilot for $1. You can stay in touch with all of your previous clients and prospects. We make it super easy to send out consistent emails and social media posts. And there's an Ask Kyle Anything call, which is fire every month. Check out remodelersautopilot.com. But as I was saying, I would add, those people reached out to you, they gave them an email address. I would at least add them to your email list so they get a once a month email. I've just seen way too often to count how many people, will not reach back out to you. They've been getting your emails monthly for, a year. And then all of a sudden you get a response to one of those emails that say, hey, we're actually thinking about doing our kitchen. Bada bing, bada boom. So that's what I would do in that situation. And whoever that was just gave me a thumbs up to that answer. Cool. All right, my friends. So that is just a good, solid Remodelers on the Rise live episode. We had some good engagement there. I'd be curious to hear in the comments, what is your takeaway from this today? What is your takeaway? Please type that in before you sign off. I'll do this again on Thursday on a whole different topic. We've got some guests coming up in the coming weeks, and I appreciate your time and attention. Go out there and kick some butt today. I was about to say booty, but that's not very professional, but I'll do it anyway. Go out there and kick some booty this afternoon. Work hard, stay focused, one thing at a time, and knock out some work. Talk to you soon.